Hey guys, thank you for finally joining me for Freaky Friday. I'm sorry that I missed last week's, but I was really sick and I really do apologize for missing so long. And again, thank you all for being so patient and so loving and caring. All right, let's get right into this, okay? Do you ever wonder why you have to keep your campfire going? Or why you keep your lights on at night? Well, it's really simple. This is the story of the Click Click Shanae. A long time ago, up at Bear Lake, Utah, there was a couple who had just recently gotten married, and they were traveling around the United States, going state to state, seeing the sights, and they heard that Bear Lake in Utah is beautiful. Now, when they got there, all of the cabins, camping spots, everything had filled up. Except for one. One house up on the ridge on a cliff. Now, this cabin had its lights on. And so they were curious why no one had taken it and why the lights are on if no one's in there. So they go and they find the ranger. And the ranger says, yeah, you can have that cabin, but I wouldn't recommend it. And the man kind of steps up with his chest puffed out and he says, hey, we'd like it. We're going to take it. How much do we owe you? And the ranger sighs and he's, okay. It'll be X amount for every night. And the man goes, fine, here. He throws him some cash and they start making their way up. And the ranger calls out before they're too far gone. He goes, hey, just do me a favor. Do not turn the lights off. Please. And the man stops. He turns around and goes, why? Is some monster gonna come get us? And the ranger looks down, defeated, and says, yes. Please don't turn off the light. And that's when the wife chimes in and says, hey, we're going to be doing some activities tonight. We're going to need that light off. So if you don't mind, we're going to turn it off. And away they went. They went up the hill and to the cabin. They get inside, they get unpacked, and they take a look outside, and it is gorgeous. The view is beautiful and breathtaking. They have a perfect view of the lake, and they have a perfect view of the forest to their right and behind them. It is a gorgeous spot for this cabin to be, and they don't understand why nobody was taking it. So, the night continues, and just as the woman promised, some adult activities took place. Now, after everything was said and done, the husband and wife were sleeping soundly. When suddenly, the husband jerks awake. He wakes up and he shakes his wife, and his wife opens her eyes and says, what is it, hon? And he stops and goes, shh, shh, shh. Do you hear that? And in the woods to their right, they heard a very, very faint click, click, shine. And the husband leans in and he starts really paying attention. And he goes, did you hear that? It sounded like clicking. And they listen again, and they hear it again. Click, click, shana. And the wife turns and goes, that sounds like bone cracking and like something's dragging. And the husband's like, yeah, it is. And he listens really closely, and there was nothing. The wife looks at him and goes, that was weird. Maybe we should turn the light on. And the husband looks at his wife and says, Come on, hun. Don't tell me you bought what the ranger said about some monster. It's probably some deer or something, or maybe it's a predator dragging a deer away. And the wife sighs a deep relief. She goes, you're right. It's a hunting territory. You're right. So they go back to sleep, and they sleep through the night. Next morning, husband looks at his wife and goes, how long do you want to stay here, hon? And she goes, a few more days. I think that'll give us enough time to take in the scenery, going around a few places around the lake. Give us plenty of time. It's like 2 more days. And the husband says, perfect. I'll go down and see the ranger today, pay him for 2 more nights, and then we'll be set. Husband goes down, and as soon as he gets down, he gets approached by an older gentleman. And the gentleman looks at him and goes, hey, you didn't stay up in there in that cabin, did you? And the husband's like, yeah, of course I did. And I was like, well, did you hear anything that was a bit too strange for you? And he looks at him and he starts chuckling and goes, oh, come on, don't tell me you believe this monster bullshit too. And the older gentleman kind of adjusts his shirt and he says, well, I do. And it will be in your best interest to remember to stay safe. And he rolls his eyes and he goes, sure, old timer. And he walks away. The old gentleman shrugs his shoulders, walks back to his camp with his family. Husband and wife go on an amazing day. They hang out in the lake, they splash around, they go to a few restaurants near the lake. It's a beautiful day. Night comes, and as they're driving back towards the cabin, the ranger stops them again and says, hey, please, I know you kind of shook me off yesterday, but you had to have heard it last night. The sound, please just turn on a light. It'll keep it away. Just please do this for me. I can't have another missing person. And the husband looks at him, puffs his chest out and goes, we didn't hear anything, man. You guys are crazy. You're all just a bunch of crazy rednecks trying to scare your tourists. Stop it and let us go back to sleep, okay? Cool, let's go. And he drives away. The ranger shakes his head and walks back to his post. Husband and wife get inside, make dinner, eat dinner, and go to bed. Well, this time the wife wakes up and she basically throws the husband off the bed and says something's outside. And the husband gets up and he's all like, he's, huh? What are you talking about? And she's like, hey, there is something outside. Listen. And they listen really closely. And then they hear it. This time, it is clear as day. Bones cracking and something being dragged. The wife says, maybe we should turn on a light. And the husband again scoffs and says, honey, there's no such thing as monsters. There's no such thing as this click click shenay. It's just it's just the residents trying to scare tourists. That's all this is. It's probably the old dude who came up and talked to me today. We're fine. We're safe. And so the husband lays back down. He starts falling asleep. But the wife stays awake. And she listens as it walks around the house, just to the right. And then one more time in front of her. And she's like, that's on the porch. And she gets up, walks to the front door, and turns on the porch light. And she listens really closely. Nothing. The sound is gone. And she takes a deep breath of relief. And she thinks to herself, I feel safer with it on. So she goes back into the bedroom with her husband and goes to sleep. Next morning, the husband calls out to her and goes, did you turn the light on? And she's like, yeah, it made me feel safer. It made me feel like we were okay, like we weren't going to die. And the husband's like, honey, all right, I'm not going to argue. Anyway, let's go have another fun day, and then we'll sleep tonight, and then we'll leave early in the morning. And she says, that sounds perfect. They go, have an amazing time, and while they're out driving, sightseeing, the ranger pulls up next to him and goes, hey, just want to say thank you for turning the light on. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you'll keep it on tonight. And the husband says, hey, I doubt it. My wife got scared. She wanted it on, but we're not going to need it. And the ranger's like, I really recommend putting it on tonight. And the husband shakes his head and he goes, listen, stop trying to scare us and stop trying to spread your weird little story, okay? It's not going to work. The wife turns away and the husband leans into the ranger and goes, hey, I know what you're doing. I know what you and the old man are doing. So do me a favor and knock it off. You are genuinely scaring my wife. You do it again, and I'm pressing charges. Is that understood? And the ranger leans in really closely and says, sir, no one is allowed at that cabin at night. As soon as nightfall hits, you are in your cabin, campsite, whatever, until morning. That is the rule at Bear Lake. And I am at HQ making sure there is no reports, injuries, anything. I do not leave my post. I do not leave my headquarters. If you are hearing something, that means you should turn the light on. Maybe you should start listening to your elders and stop being a punk ass who thinks he knows better because he's a little bit younger and just got married. Protect your wife and turn on the fucking light. The husband looks at him and goes, whatever. And they leave and they go back to the cabin. This time, at 3 a.m., both the husband and wife shoot up from bed. They look around the room, and down the hall, in the living room of the house, in the cabin, they hear it. They hear the wife grabs hold of the husband and says, hey, we need to leave. And he goes, no, honey, I think I pissed someone off today and someone's trying to be tough. I got this. And he gets up, he's looking at his wife, and he goes, I have it under control. He turns, and in the doorway, just below the top of the door frame, are two bright, glowing yellow eyes. And the husband's staring, and all of a sudden, a fleshy, giant hand reaches out and grabs the husband and yanks him into the darkness. And the wife sits up and she looks, and the yellow eyes aren't moving. They're staying right there, but she's hearing mushing sounds and crunching and chewing and just gross sounds she should never hear. She gets up and she runs for the light. And right as she reaches it, that's when everyone near the cabin hears a blood-curdling scream. The next morning, the ranger comes up to the cabin because he heard reports, opens the door, and he looks down the hallway. And he finds a trail of blood leading from the door to the bedroom all the way to the window. And he walks forward and he walks into the bedroom. And right in front of the door is a just puddle of blood. And he pokes his head in, and the room is just covered in blood. And he looks at the bed, and sitting on the bed is 2 wedding rings. He lets out a deep, frustrated sigh. And he comes back and he screams out to everyone. He goes, everyone here, remember to leave the campfires going or any lights you have on, we leave them on. Understood? And every single person shakes their head yes and lights the campfire and lights the lights. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, this is just in Bear Lake. No. There's a reason you keep the light on. There's a reason you keep the campfire going. It's to make sure you are safe in the middle of the night. So, before you leave, always remember to keep a light on or the campfire going. Have a good night.